What's going on, everybody? I'm here with Al Bender. I'm going to be opening up this Star Wars Unlimited box and hopefully find something decent and also have a healthy conversation on what has been going on in the market with this, the plays. I know, Al, you've been entering a lot of local competitions and stuff, and your hobby store is pretty awesome. Like, it's pretty active, which is pretty great.
Yeah, we have a
And you
bunch
also
here.
picked up a lot of the new stuff too,
Yep.
which is pretty cool. What have you opened of the new stuff so far? Like, how many boxes, or have you been trading for stuff, or what?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we've probably for those who don't know, my 6-year-old is extremely into this game, uh, and so this time I had to get some product for him specifically too, in addition to myself. So we also played 4 pre-releases each. So I think between all of that, we've probably opened like 6.5-ish boxes, maybe 7 boxes if you count like prizes and stuff. So definitely the best thing we opened a Ray showcase, which was really cool. It's the first showcase that we've opened. And then we had one ridiculous pack that was a hyperspace Poe Dameron, and then right behind it was a regular Poe Dameron. So that
Oh,
ended up
that's
being
awesome.
like a $130 pack.
Separate these by color. I'm trying to think how I organized this last time. It's a pain in the ass.
The second set has like, I don't know if you've heard, there are like a lot of collation issues with the second set, where like you can basically predict based on which rares you get in packs, which legendaries you're likely to get in the following packs. So the big takeaway there is just like don't buy any packs from any unreputable source. That's a really nice one, actually. I think that is actually a fairly expensive one.
This rare hyperspace sneak
Yeah,
attack.
yeah, yeah. It's like
Yeah,
maybe
this act.
$8 something like
Yeah,
that.
it's a good playable card.
Yeah.
Gideon Hask and TIE Fighter foil. So there's our foil, and I don't know if I separate rares or what. I guess I could separate rares. I was gonna say, so I haven't opened any of the pre-release stuff, like from this or from the second one, and I know there's also like a lot of promos and stuff. Like, what can you tell me about those pre-release like packs?
Yeah, so the pre-release boxes, they come with 6 standard packs. There's some debate over whether or not they have the same pull rates as the boxes. And then in addition to that, you also get, a rule guide, you get some tokens, you get a little sort of cardboard box to put them in. And then you also get both Moff Gideon and the Mandalorian hyperfoil leaders, which is sort of like an improvement over the last set. In the last set, you just got sort of like regular leaders, but these are foil and they're hyperspace, which is super. I mean, the leaders in the last set were foil, but they were regular. For a cause, that's still a good card.
Yep.
That's one of the more expensive rares.
And here's
Yeah,
our strafing gunship rare.
that's good too.
That's
These
cool.
are these are 2 real good packs so far.
Have you been collecting the promos or like the place finishing stuff, anything like that? Because
Yes. Um, so in terms of the weekly, there's a hyperspace rare leader. That's cool.
yeah,
In terms of the weekly play promos, whenever you show up at a local, you typically get a pack. It has 3 cards in it. 2 of them are like common, and then one they call a rare, but it's like an uncommon generally. And there are foil versions of the rare ones. So yeah, I think we've collected a full set of those, which has been cool. And in terms of the Mace Windows, I was fortunate enough to finish top 3 in 2 store showdowns. So I have 2 top 4s and 2 top 8s.
okay, yeah, that's pretty cool. I've seen a lot of those like talked about online, like people hunting for those like place finishing cards.
Yeah, I think the champion one is the only one that's like still holds very much value. I think you could actually buy a finalist one now for like $20. But it's still, it's a cool memory.
Yeah, no, that's pretty cool. I I've seen some of the stuff come in. I'm like, I know they're gonna just like run away with these, um, but it's good to see that at least the price point isn't like outrageous at this point. Because I'm sure there's a fair amount of collectors. I mean, from what you've seen, like people are like playing, but then they might collect like just hypers or focusing on like just the base set and then collecting like playing for the most part. Um, what's been like your experience like chatting with some of the other like comic book store, folks? Like, what are they primarily doing? Are they like just play, or are they like heavy into the collecting and just play casually? Like, what's like your general consensus?
So I would say more people I've run into are into playing than collecting. And to the extent that they are collecting, it's like there's a leader they really like, so maybe they'll buy the hyperspace version because they know they want to play that deck. So it's like at least
like a rainbow sort of thing, if you will, of it.
Yeah. So at least like the people I've interacted with, like playing is like the central focus, which I think is cool. Now, obviously, I'm sure there are collectors who aren't showing up to play as well. But
That probably seems less likely. I mean, I don't know. I hopefully they continue to print this and make this very available so that even if there are extra cards or like you want to get into the game and play, like it's relatively inexpensive. Because at the end of the day, like let's think like 2-3 years from now, like are you going to be able to get this stuff from Spark of the Rebellion like fairly easily, or is it going to be like a box is like $1,000 and like you can't enter, but like there's might be some foundational cards in here, like that could be a problem. But if they're doing what you were saying offline before we got on, of like including essentially set 1 cards, just adding like a 2 at the bottom instead of set 1 or something, like that's
nice.
good. Yeah, there we go. We got a legendary Luke.
That is so. We were talking before we started recording, but that some of the legendaries have gotten better in the second set. Some of the legendaries from the first set have gotten better with the release of the second set. Some have gotten worse, and some have basically stayed the same. I think Luke is one that's probably gotten a little bit better because I think that was always a very, very powerful card, but it didn't really have a deck that wanted it. And obviously the meta for set 2 is still very early, but I think Blue Heroism has some good potential in the set. So I think that's a card that is probably going to be more playable and frankly might get more expensive.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm sure that's going to be a staple card. It's like a decent card. Like, it's a 7 cost. Like some of the cards that are like, 8, 9, 10, like that takes a while to get through. So I'm not saying like it's not worth it. It's just, oh, well, this is a good card too, right?
Man, this is a banger box so far.
Yeah, and then we got a Krell rare hyperspace foil. So that's banger.
That's pretty sweet. That's not the rare you want to see in hyperfoil, but you'll still take a hyperfoil rare because you're definitely not guaranteed to get one.
Yeah, I know there's more valuable ones out there, but it's all good. I am still kind of filling in. Like I have a binder, like passively, like filling in when I get something like I don't have, but I do have plenty of cards like put aside for playing. So I'm like, part of this is helpful for me just to see the cards and be like, oh, okay, right. Like, what's the game text on them? Because I'm not at the point where I've memorized the game text on these.
Fair enough.
But I guess if you play this like week in, week out, you're pretty familiar with the usual suspects.
Oh,
there's a legendary Boba Fett.
Oh man, dude, you've pulled 2 of the 3 best legendaries in the set, in addition to pulling all of the best rares in the set. That's
and a hyperspace foil asteroid sanctuary.
This is one of the best boxes I've seen so far, honestly.
So, funny story with this box. Jamie in the UK, he had given me like $2,000 worth of cards to grade. So I graded those for him, and then like I had gotten some things aside. So we kind of had this like back and forth balance. Like if I need to buy something in the UK that's available, whatever, and he buys stuff here, and then we just ship it to each other like quarterly or something, right? Maybe like half a year if it needs to be longer. But see, he went into his local shop and they had he had basically like, I guess, finagled the guy, because I asked him, I was like, if you come across any Sparks of Rebellion boxes, let me know. And he's like, oh, the guy did have one. And he was like, he hadn't put it out because he saw that they were going really quickly. But I guess Jamie sweet talked him into selling it at MSRP. So he just sold it. He's like, here, do you want them? I'm like, yes, put that towards my balance. So I was like, great. So that's how I got this box. So this box is from the United Kingdom.
Well, Seems like it worked out pretty well for you.
Yeah, and like I actually got my first like Lorcana Chapter 4 box from him too, because I had a balance with him, so I'm like, just pick up a Lorcana box, amongst other things. I just kind of point out, since we kind of even each other out, so we don't really have to like pay each other.
Right.
We can just kind of like, I'm gonna buy these things anyways. If you find them for a good price, then like we'll just do it that way. So
yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it helps because there were some Stranger Things cards and sometimes the boxes get expensive here in the US, but they're not like the same surge abroad. So sometimes I can get lucky with that stuff, and I don't advertise it. I just like, if we get it, then great. The Ghost uncommon foil.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was actually just in Canada, and they, like, the store owners I was talking to there, like, really have had a struggle to get Star Wars product. Like, it seems like it's been easier to get in the US than in Canada.
So they're getting even less, I'm guessing, then, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the primary market is the United States, right?
Yeah, I think you could characterize it that way. But I mean, obviously, there's a big player base in Canada too, or there's a lot of people who'd like to play in Canada from my conversations with them.
I'm sure, but I haven't found it difficult to, like, if I really wanted a card, like, I could get it. At least in terms of singles, like I've bought a few singles on before and other bulk lots stuff. They're still readily available. It doesn't feel like there's cards that are just completely evasive and just nowhere to be found. So
No.
like, if you wanted to put together a deck, like, you could still do that. Of course, ripping fresh product is the best, but
yeah, that's
still.
fair. And to the point about reprints before, I don't know if you saw, but they released that they're doing basically a promo set at some of the conventions that includes a reprint of Count Dooku, Darth Vader, Emperor Palpatine, Kylo Ren, legendary from the second set, and then 2 cards from the third set. One is a Asajj Ventress and one is a Darth Maul. So, like, again, thinking about the Darth Vader, which was the most expensive legendary in the first set, they've already shown that they're willing to reprint it sort of with different art, which should help to keep the cost down a little bit for people who want to play it. So I think they're like trying to stratify and like target both the collector market and the player market to try to keep prices somewhat reasonable.
Yeah, I would imagine you could go insane, like trying to collect every variation of like the same card. Like I get the feeling like a year or two from now, like there's going to be 8 different versions of like the same card. So if you wanted to play with it, it's readily available, and you just buy the cheapest version of it, right? But for like the true collector who's like OCD about getting each and every one, like that's going to be quite the project.
Definitely. This is not a game that I would want to feel compelled to own every version of every card of. That would be shockingly expensive ever.
No, I don't feel that way. I'm like, you know what? I'm good with this base stuff. I'm not going to get every tournament and like promo variation and all that stuff. I'm like, that's nuts. I'm like, the card's the card. It is what it is. Like, it didn't change. Only the craziest of collectors are going to care about that kind of stuff.
Although it's interesting, the like top 8 Mace Windu promos now, like Mace Windu as a legendary has fallen so far in price that you can just buy a regular one for like $6. But I think like even the promo ones are like $8 now.
Yeah, I think I bought a single one pretty cheap, maybe like $7 or something.
Yeah,
because I didn't have it, and I was like, oh, I thought this was so much more expensive at some point.
Ooh, that's a nice card too.
Yeah, Seventh Sister Hyperspace rare. I'm pretty sure I don't have it. K2SO is helpful to have, but I have a bunch of him for decks.
Man, I have to say, of all the box openings I've participated in or seen, I think this is the best collection of rares I've ever seen in a box. Actually, frankly, like you haven't had any huge hits, like hyper foils or like showcase or anything, but like a Luke and a Boba legendary in the same box is pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these cards I recognize as like valuable cards to throw into decks. So So that's been helpful. Or I already have some of them for decks and maybe just need another copy of them or something. So
Yeah.
that's
I
helpful.
think Luke in particular, to get back to your question about like collectors versus players. So like in the second set, nice. In the second set, they released a Maul card, not Darth Maul, just Maul. But it's a rare, and it's equivalent power level to the set one Darth Vader. It's a little bit different. There are some arguments where you might want to run both, but there are some decks where you might choose to run Maul over Vader, and others where you might choose to run Vader. And I think that like significantly decreased the Vader price, which went from like $90 down to like $55 to $60. So I think they probably knew that was going to be an expensive card, and they released that card so that it would sort of reduce the cost of that. Whereas like Luke, there isn't really an equivalent to Luke.
No, and it would be I do not have multiple copies of him to be able to play like 3 of them in a deck, so any extra one I get is helpful. I'm assuming you run 3 of everything that you've been looking for, right?
Yeah, I mean it depends.
That's a good one.
It depends on the deck, but like Luke is definitely someone that if you're running a deck that runs Luke, you can want to run 3 of them.
What are some of your favorite ones right now? Like, what leaders do you like running right now? If you had like a top 2
of just set 1 or set 2 too? Set 2 also.
Well, I'm assuming you've already modified your decks to reflect set 2 incorporation, correct?
Yeah. Correct.
So I think you can tell us about that
then. So number 1, I think it's pretty clear that Boba Fett, like as a leader, is just more powerful than the other leaders. It's his stats are just above rate for his cost. So whether you want to play like aggro, tempo, mid range, control, there's a Boba Fett deck that's going to be good within that. So he's pretty cool. I would say I mostly played in set 1 Grand Inquisitor. I like the mechanic of dealing damage to your own unit to be able to ready them. I think that's cool. And Han Solo, being able to burn card advantage to be able to play more powerful cards, I thought was really fun. In particular, I played a lot of Han Blue. So far in this set, I'm trying to figure out exactly what I really want to play. I mentioned I pulled a Showcase Ray, so I'm trying to figure out something to do with that. I may try Ray Red. I experimented with Jabba Red, which was really fun, but also really slow against certain decks.
What's your like preferred deck style? I mean, is it like aggro, control? What was?
Yeah, so I think my preferred deck style is somewhere between what I heard someone refer to as a thinking man's aggro, which is like your strategy is to be aggressive, but it's not just like play cards and then attack with them, right? So that's sort of like Grand Inquisitor. Grand Inquisitor is an aggro deck, but like you have to really be strategic about like when you're choosing to damage your own units to activate them and that sort of thing. So I'm a big fan of that style. I also I like Heroism Blue a lot. I like the healing mechanic. I like being able to like directly remove problematic units occasionally. But I really am not a fan of like super hard control where like you're not even playing any units. You're basically just playing
like screwing the other person.
Yeah, that's just not fun to play against. Like if neither of you can play anything to the board, I'm not sure we're playing the game the way the game was intended. So yeah, I like aggro. I like mid range. Hero Blue, I think, is a personal favorite. My 6-year-old for this set was very confident that he wanted to build a double blue Chewbacca deck to start with, and boy, is that deck annoying to play against.
Yeah. So your son is a gift for like I don't know what it is. Like you kind of like put an afterthought into building his decks, and yet they like just are so dominating sometimes, and it's like frustrating. So frustrating.
Well, can I tell you? So he was like, "I want to build a double blue Chewbacca deck," and I was like, "Okay, whatever." So I threw it together. We went to locals. He went undefeated against all adults. He won. He played me in the second round. Absolutely decimated me.
Were they just like, "Who is this kid?" Like,
no, they know at this point. Like everybody's like, I don't want to play him because he's gonna beat me. it's quite funny and a little bit frightening. I will be honest that I have not been like letting him win, but he's won the last 5 games we played. Like we played last night, and I was playing a double yellow boba deck that I built, and I was like, man, I just like can't beat this Chewy deck. Like maybe his deck is just like really strong against this. I was like, let's trade decks, and then he beat me twice with the boba deck when I was playing his Chewy deck, and I was like, okay, I think he's just outplaying me.
I don't know. I'm thinking you should enter him into like Worlds in like a year or two.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because they just made an announcement about that starting, how that process is going to start in October.
I'm guessing they're going to have qualifiers in like regions, right?
Yeah, they're going to have basically like store level regionals, and then there'll be a couple levels up. It sounds like for the first year they're doing what they're calling season 0, which is basically like a beta test run of the process that's a little bit simpler than what they plan to do long term. So anyone will be able to enter into the Worlds event. I don't think you actually technically have to qualify, but there is a way to like skip the first day if you do qualify.
Yeah, there's got to be some reward.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Yeah, so that should be super cool. I mean, we'll see where it is, but I would definitely like to do that. I'm sure my 6-year-old would also like to do that. I just need to get him to a place where he can stop telling people what's in his hand when he plays.
He does do that.
True competitive environment.
Yeah, because the more you move up, there will be very intelligent people who will find ways to capitalize on just every little advantage. If they get a peek at your card, or you tell them what you were going to play or something, like they could alter their play that way.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's not even like I'm not worried about it from a competitive perspective. It's just a decorum perspective, right? Like, I mean, when you're playing seriously, there are rules and like that, maybe a lot for a 6-year-old to have to.
Honestly, it's kind of hard for an adult if it's your first time doing it too.
Yeah, the first time I played in a 1K, I was like terrified that I was going to make a mistake and get myself disqualified.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel every time I've ever entered a tournament. I got Obi-Wan.
Nice.
Decent.
That card's so good. The set 2, one of the legendaries is the Mandalorian, and it's very similar to the Obi-Wan card, but I think the Obi-Wan card is probably still better.
All right. Last pack. All right. Chewy. Some of the usual suspects. I'm guessing at this point, like, you have like 100 of some of the commons and stuff, right? Like, what have you been doing with those? Like, keeping some, trading some? Have you sold off any bulk lots of stuff?
So I haven't sold any bulk lots. If I like meet people at locals who are like just getting started and they need some commons and uncommons, I'll just bring them to them. Nice.
Command legendary.
That's an example of a card that's not good yet, but I think in later sets will be good because I think it's like a fundamentally powerful card. It's just there's not really a deck for it yet.
Well, it's versatile, right? It gives you options.
Yeah.
So, this could be something that would last. Like, I would speculate for sure that this would be a good card down the road.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's so in the first set, there were 4 double aspect legendaries, 1 of each color. I think it's probably the least powerful of the 4, but I definitely think in the right deck, it could be very good. It just hasn't really had the right deck yet. But I think it'll probably get there at some point.
Yeah. So overall, what do you think about this box?
Honestly, I think it's like I would give it like a 95. You didn't get any hyperspace or hyperfoils or showcases. So like, that could have made it better. But if you don't count those things, just in terms of the things you expect to get in the box, this is like the 100th percentile of what you'd expect to get.
I mean, looking through it, they're like just initially of some of the cards we got, like there were a lot of cards that was like, these are great for playing. So I was very happy about that. And some I only have, 1 copy of. So like, I don't actually own all the legendaries. I do own all the rares, and I have a few extras of those, but missing some legendaries. So every little bit helps. But I'm pretty happy with this box overall. I mean, I don't open a box anticipating getting a showcase. Like, would it be amazing if I got it? Yes. But
right.
I'm not, I mean, the odds of pulling that are not very good. So that would be, a lottery win, if you will.
Yep.
So,
yep.
most of the foils we pulled common, uncommon. You know, like I have all these already.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say like so you pulled a hyperfoil rare, which is one out of every 50 packs, so like one out of every 2 boxes, and you pulled 2 hyperspace rares, which usually get like 1 hyperspace rare a box.
Well, we
So
pulled 3 hyperspace foils, and this is the hyperspace foil rare, common, common. So 3 of those, and then like most of these are common, 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 rare. So Seven Sisters, decent, common, uncommon, common, common, common. Yeah, I have all those. Rare, cheer it. I don't think I have him. Sneak attack.
yeah,
So.
I think both the sneak attack and the Seventh Sister hyperspace are worth like somewhere in the like more than 5, less than 10 range, which is pretty good.
So Command Obi-Wan Kenobi was good from the rares. Fallen Lightsaber's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Akbar, Seventh Sister.
Regional Governor's good. She's going to be really good in this set, actually, because
here.
Have you been introduced to Crate Dragon yet in the new set?
I saw it, and people were like, "Is this overpowered?"
Maybe is the answer. But the regional governor is really good because when you can wait till a person's about to play 9 and then you can play it and just call Crate Dragon, and that may completely interrupt their turn.
I mean, it looks like it could be a devastating card, like in theory.
I mean, it is. I played someone the other day who just dropped it on me, and that was the end of the game because I was like, I wasn't able to take it out on the board, and I only had like 3 or 4 health remaining on my base, and I was like, even if I play Fell the Dragon, which I had in my hand, I still lose.
Oh my god, that's wild.
Yep.
But yeah, well, this has been a cool rip. Appreciate the commentary here, and look forward to opening up your Shadows box very shortly.
Sounds good.
So, deuces.